Up next, Mark Stoeltje, is that right? Is I should know this, founding executive director of the San Antonio Clubhouse. That's a day program that serves adults with severe mental illness. Theirs is a strengths-based model that focuses on the meaningful relationships and the meaningful work in a non-hierarchical setting rather than treatment. And they follow the innovative, internationally acclaimed Clubhouse model of rehabilitation, which began in the 40s as a support group that's comprised of patients that were released from a mental hospital in New York. And today there are more than 300 clubhouses in 30 different countries all over the world. Please welcome Mark Stoeltje.
So I'm going to be talking about severe mental illness, and I have to share that my mother-in-law is sitting next to me, and she leaned over and said, "Now, Mark, you have to use humor. You have to make this funny." So my charge here is to make severe mental illness funny. So what images come to mind when we think of severe mental illness? Many of you know this is Gerald Loeffner, who had a psychotic break in Tucson and shot up a parking lot in a grocery store, killed 6 people and injured 16, including Congressman Giffords. This young man is Gerald Holmes. Many of you know he's the man who went into a theater in Aurora, Colorado, and killed 16 people and injured 58. I'll show you these pictures because many of us that don't have familiarity with mental illness, when we think of severe mental illness, this is what we think of. Or we may have a more humorous view of mental illness. Many of y'all remember the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Looks like a harmless enough group, maybe a little scary, but probably not folks you'd invite home for a dinner party. So I'm here to tell you about my 9 years of experience working and getting to know people with mental illness at the Clubhouse. But the first thing I'd like to point out is that 1 in 4 people will be diagnosed with a mental illness in their lifetime. So what I'd like you to do is look at the person in front of you, look at the person to your right, and look at the person to your left, and if it's not them, it's you. Okay? Now, these images you're going to see here, photographer David Massey came and spent a day at the Clubhouse and took portraits of 18 of our members. And so I'm going to have these images showing while I'm telling you a little bit about the Clubhouse. It's a unique program. As Beamer said, we don't focus on treatment. We focus on what people have to offer and what they can accomplish. This is a model that was started 60 years ago. There are 300 clubhouses around the world in 30 countries. Now, what makes us different is that when people come to the Clubhouse, they basically can leave their mental illness at the door. Most of the folks that come to the Clubhouse live significantly below the poverty line, multiple hospitalizations. Some folks have been in jail, taking 9, 10 different medications, so they have a lot of things stacked against them. But when they come to the Clubhouse, they can focus on what they can accomplish. So what do we do at the Clubhouse? First of all, I'm not a mental health professional. I've met hundreds and hundreds of people over the last 9 years. Most of the people that come to the Clubhouse, I don't even know what their diagnosis is. I don't need to know that because that's not what we're talking about. The Clubhouse is set up like a workplace. So members come because for 2 reasons. They have an opportunity to develop meaningful relationships with other people, because a lot of these folks live in isolation because of the nature of illness. They've been alienated from family and friends. So their family is the Clubhouse. So they come there to develop meaningful relationships and be involved in meaningful work. Gives them a chance to get out of the house. So the Clubhouse is set up like a workplace. The members come in and volunteer their time doing all the work of the Clubhouse, and that can be clerical work, it can be preparing meals, it can be janitorial work, groundskeeping. All of the work is done by the staff and members working together. So what happens in this environment is people discover that they do have things to offer, and they can make choices. All the decisions at the Clubhouse are made by consensus, and what that means is the staff and the members sit down together, and whether we're talking about what color we're going to paint a wall or what the menu is going to be or who we're going to hire, the members are integrally involved in that process. So they have a voice, many of them for the first time. If you go back to that movie, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, some of us are old enough in here to remember that movie. Those folks in the hospital, which is a semi-fictionalized account of Ken Kesey's time in a mental institution, I believe in California. They couldn't make choices about anything. They were told what time to get up, what to wear, where they could go, where they couldn't go, and what to eat. They had no control over their own lives. And at the Clubhouse they do. So what we do is we see miracles happen at the Clubhouse. We see, first of all, significantly reduced hospitalization rates, because what people need is what you and I need. The reason we're here tonight, part of the reason we're here tonight, is because we all want a sense of community. That's why we have churches, that's why we have civic groups and so forth. People with mental illness need the same thing, and they find that at the Clubhouse. I love our members. People tell me sometimes, they say, gosh, you work with people with mental illness, that must be really hard. You must be a special person. And the truth is, these people have taught me so much. They have taught me an incredible amount. They have a resilience that's really unbelievable. They have an honesty that a lot of times that, in our dealings in life, we don't always see that kind of honesty. And I want to share with you kind of a funny story. I hope you find it funny. I go and speak to groups from time to time, and I was going to speak to a local civic group, and I won't say who it was, but I was taking a member with me to speak as well. And we're walking out of the Clubhouse, and he says, well, who are we going to speak to? And I said, well, we're going to talk to a bunch of old white guys. Okay, so we get there to the Civic Club, and it's over lunch, and we have our lunch, and I get up and I do my speech, and I said, now I'd like to introduce Pete, who's going to come up and tell you about the Clubhouse from his perspective. And he comes up and gets behind the microphone and looks out and he says, well, when Mark said we were going to talk to a bunch of old white guys, he wasn't kidding. So that was a really special moment. But I love these folks. I don't know them as a doctor knows a patient or a social worker knows a patient, but I know them as people. I've known them for years, and they're wonderful people. They don't fit the image that some of us think about when we think of people with mental illness. We are a community. We're open 5 days a week, 8:30 to 4:30. Members come and go as they like. There's no treatment, so we don't deal with insurance. It's basically a place to come gather as a community and develop friendships with other people. And we love having visitors, so come by anytime. We're over on Recoleta Road off of San Pedro. If you know where Nagel's Gun Shop is, I love to tell people that we're the mental health program behind the gun shop. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mark. Hang on here just a minute. Okay, so I had a question or two. Now, when we think of, say, mental illness, and people might get confused with mental disabilities and things like that. Now, when you look up there, you talk about this group as mentally ill, mentally disabled, what?
Mental illness is typically for us is defined as an Axis I diagnosis, which is bipolar disorder, clinical depression, schizoaffective disorder, or schizophrenia.
But not, I'm sorry, 1 and 4, I looked at the mirror. But not the mentally challenged or disabled.
Some are. Some people also have intellectual disabilities. We have some people with some, closed head injuries. We have some folks with autism, some folks with Asperger's syndrome. But typically, it's an Axis I diagnosis.
And where do you get the money to have this?
I'm glad you asked that. Because we're not a clinical program, and because Texas consistently ranks 50th of the 50 states in per capita funding for mental health, we are all privately funded. We're funded through individuals and private foundations.
Okay. And it's been around here since how long?
2003. We started in a Sunday school wing at Travis Park Methodist Church downtown. And 4 months ago, we're able to move into this beautiful new space, 7,300